It is still 2024, Year of the Wood Dragon. I had filmed this video a couple weeks ago, but I decided to refilm it. In addition to a busy spring schedule, I thought, well, this content is not limited to the wood dragon, so it doesn't have to be limited to the beginning of the year. So anyway, here it goes. If you might be wondering, what's my luck or fortune this year? I want to provide you with an alternative by suggesting that you can reframe this and ask instead, what are some of the forces working for me and what may be working against me? And how can I find the middle way to get the best possible outcome for myself in perfect alignment with my goals and intentions? Here at Venus Garden, my focus is on nurturing and supporting each other through various topics, specifically exploring the intersectionality between lifestyle, spirituality, creativity, and science. And if these topics interest you, I hope you will like, subscribe, and stick around. In Taoism, the goddess斗姥元君, also known as Dao Mu, Dao Mu,斗母元君, translated as the Lady of the Chariot, or Queen/Mother of the Heavens. As you can imagine, she is a busy goddess in charge of many things, but specifically to this video, she is indeed in charge of the Chinese Zodiac signs, which also means she is in charge of the 60 generals. How do you get 60? Each of the 12 Chinese zodiac signs are paired with the 5 elements. So 12 times 5 is 60. So there are 60 generals, or Tai Sui. I've seen Tai Sui translated as the Grand Duke of Jupiter, because it refers to the cluster of stars directly opposite to Jupiter in that year. Each year alternates between Yang and Yin year. And for the Wood Dragon year, it's a Yang year. The 60 generals are more like the personification of the cluster of stars. They each have a name and title. So if you ever visit a Taoist temple that has the 60 Tai Sui, you can visit your birth year general. All 60 of them, together along with Dao Mu, are in fact in charge of distributing fu huo, or fortune and calamities. If there is a yin, there is a yang. It's like the principle of polarity in Hermeticism. It's like there's fortune, there's calamities. With regard to the generals, I like to view them as 60 archetypes that have an overarching theme, instead of thinking it as a way to diagnose your personality and your fortune. It's like pop cultures likes to use your zodiac sun sign, like to diagnose things. Like, you know, that's what you see at the end of the magazine or newspaper, kind of telling you your fortune for the month. But I don't like to think of it that way. Because I like to play video games myself, I prefer this analogy that all of these divination or self-assessment tools, whether it's your natal chart, your purple star astrology, 紫微斗数, your human design chart, your numerology, your physiognomy, reading your palms, your face, all that jazz, your gene keys, your MBTI, Enneagram personality, quote-unquote Chinese zodiac. These are actually an architectural blueprint, or the user manual, or maybe the game tutorial. It is but a general guideline about how you can play this game of life, and there's more than one way to play or win in this video game. The choice is ultimately yours, and what you want to do with your character is up to you. Therefore, think of every year as having a limited time event or character, a new character entering. Or maybe it's a major game update, and it will present to you with challenges or maybe special privileges or perks. This spices things up, shakes up the rules a little bit, and it keeps you interested and keep playing. Take it with a humble grain of salt if these tools don't resonate with you or it's not something you ascribe to. However, as I discussed in my previous videos, it is my belief in knowing that when you are a soul that incarnates here on Gaia, you actually already chose your own adventure and have already set the parameters of how your game is going to be played. Like easy, normal mode, hard, insanity mode. As I've experienced when I'm performing Akashic Records readings, most people already know why they're here or have an inkling of their mission and vision, if you will, for their life here. Before you go, oh, I didn't sign up for this, maybe think about it for a second, because you may have even designed the game yourself. Fortunately, you were also given the user manual along with this adventure. You can also still play the game without reading the tutorial or completely ignoring the user manual. Raise your hand if you've done that before. I know I have. If you choose to use any of these divination or self-assessment tools like I do, I personally look at the macro and the microcosm of what's happening in the world right now and how it fits with my personal goals. Macro, major world events, the economy, etc. Micro, what's happening in my own life, in my own health, interpersonally, and how I can use the tools I have to maneuver through some of the forces out there working for or maybe working against me this year. I like to apply an analytical and strategic lens onto myself. I would then look at my natal chart elements, my own elements, and then contemplate on the wood dragon archetype. Tune into its energy and use what rings true to me personally. I don't follow any masters, any talks or podcasts or predictions, unless I choose to consult someone on a one-on-one basis where that person is looking at the macrocosm with my specific natal chart in mind. Then I will be more interested and engaged, because I've tried listening to astrology podcasts and they're a lot of fun, but I didn't find myself resonating with the content as much because I feel like that is still too general. So if you come from a Mandarin speaking culture, maybe buddho-daoist practice, you may have heard the term fan Tai Sui, or offending the Tai Sui General that year. And it is assumed that if that year you fan Tai Sui, it means you will have a bad year, and therefore you would need to go to the temple and pray and do this ritual called Tai Sui, which you would transfer or transmute the bad luck. And I'm in no way dismissing this religious practice, but know that this is just one way that you could interpret or interact with the system of fortune and calamities. It's more traditional, but it's an option. So out of curiosity, I googled what pop culture said about the wood dragon, and there are many articles that popped up, and many of them will say something like, the dragon is the luckiest and special animal. And I'm just like, oh, try not to roll my eyes. I mean, we know dragons are extremely special. They're higher dimensional, elemental, alchemical creatures. But in the system of fortune and calamity, or in this context of the wood dragon, this is just not what I'm focusing on. It's okay if you do, but I personally don't believe that anyone has a better lot in life just because they're born in a certain year at a certain time. No matter which divination system you use, they are all rooted in sacred geometry, numerology, patterns, and archetypes. In other words, statistics. In our current timeline that we know of, We have at least 10,000 years of statistics that survive. But our ancestors in Egypt, Middle East, Far East, and South America, North America, the Americas, they may have had reference materials and data from previous civilizations that might be older than 10,000 years. We could never know for sure, at least right now. And that is why the argument, it's always there, of people who lump these topics together relating to spirituality together with superstition, or dismiss it all together as non-scientific based beliefs. So to me, when someone says that 10,000 plus years of statistics is simply superstition and not based in science, and it's therefore useless, I'm sorry, but that does sound a bit ignorant to me. We are in the age of Aquarius. What is it? The age of information, or the age of Archangel Michael as channeled by Rudolf Steiner. And the way I interpret it, this is like this enlightened age where previously hidden or inaccessible information is readily available at your fingertips. You have no trouble, going online and finding books on esoteric topics, on, video lectures, you name it. As an example, you can study the Kabbalah freely, when previously it was reserved for men who are 40 years and older and who is learned and fluent in both Hebrew and Aramaic. You can study it right away. You can find anything on Google, pull digital data from libraries, you can ask ChatGPT, or if you're inclined to, like me, you can go into the Akashic records. To continue the video game analogy, the boss stage of our current times is to exercise discernment. What are facts? What is even fact-checking and misinformation and fake news? And if I install this app, is it good for me? Will it sell my data and use information collected to manipulate my behavior for profit and line the pockets of, self-serving corporations? It could be. Or what's the ethical way to use AI, or is there an ethical way? How do we swiftly sift through the massive amount of information available to find the most relevant information? Discussing the wood dragon, for me, is but a doorway or invitation for further introspection and contemplation about what it means to be human in this timeline. Let's put aside the video game analogy for a second and return to the topic of fortune and calamities. The information I'm sharing, I got from a meeting and conversation with斗姥元君. And what she shared with me is that it is her duty to distribute fortune and calamities, even if she might not want to give out calamities. Therefore, there is no such thing as a best year or the best zodiac sign. Whether you feel it or not, the system itself of fortune and calamities is designed to be fair. If you experience a macro event like an environmental disaster, you may feel like, why me? Why us? Why not them? And my understanding is that if it was indeed divinely planned, meaning it is necessary for the collective, the greatest good of the collective, these disasters are meant to be distributed evenly throughout. Gaia is a living, breathing organism with its own consciousness, and it has to periodically release tension and waste, like inhale and you exhale, like humans and animals and plants. But, however, there are many major global events that are not part of the system of fortune and calamities, but probably planned attacks by dark forces for a certain groups of personal gain and benefit. Don't have to think that hard about it, but if you just think of wars that humans have waged and look at the root cause, effect, and motivation, there's always a group that gains and benefits from the conflict. As above, so below. Just to be clear, I'm not trying to make any commentary on any past, current, or future conflicts and warfares, but sharing an analogy to help illustrate how the system of fortune and calamities work, and to underscore that the system excludes man-made warfares and any warfares in the spiritual realm. And it could involve major disasters, biochemical or informational warfares, as an example. And I don't think that it's a secret to say that these kinds of events are unnatural and inorganic. In conclusion, if you've gotten to this part of the video, in this video we discussed and explored the esoteric Taoist concept of the system of fortune and calamities via the messages and explanation by斗姥元君, which I then connected this with the principle of polarity in Hermeticism. I discussed and compared how divination and self-assessment tools is kind of like a blueprint or user manual that outlines our life goals and intentions and could help you understand and explore why you choose to incarnate here on Earth or Gaia in this lifetime. What are you here to accomplish and experience? The user manual usually will tell you pretty explicitly if you choose to read it. At the end of the day, there's definitely no one-size-fits-all when it comes to what to do with this information and how you should or could apply it to your life. Many CEOs, world leaders, past or present, have consulted divination or self-assessment tools to help them make major decisions. They just don't advertise it on their LinkedIn. That's it for this video. I hope you find it interesting, thought-provoking, entertaining, and I will be back with more videos. Thank you for watching. Just kidding. I actually have a postscript story. So I filmed this video a while ago, but I didn't like the lighting. As I mentioned, it was raining that day in Tokyo, and I decided to try out my ring light, and I always felt like it made me look sleepy, and like my words are not as energetic, so I didn't feel like editing the video. I was indeed procrastinating in addition to all of the commitments I've had these past couple of months, which is busy. So I woke up and I'm like, you know what? The other reason why I was procrastinating was probably because I didn't feel like the video was good enough or something is missing, and I was also hesitant to go into the details because I didn't know how she would feel about this, because she values her privacy. I also don't want to seem like, ooh, I'm so special, I got to interact with the goddess斗姥元君directly, look at me, I'm so cool. You know, that's not what I wanted to emphasize. I just didn't want to come across that way. But then, like, what if the viewer is like, how do you know? How do you talk to her? Did you channel her? Like, how do you know this information is correct? So here I am. I'm going to tell you the short version of how I met her, as well as the anecdote that I'm sharing that I hope you'll find interesting, entertaining, valuable. I don't know. So here we go. She is a psychic family friend introduced through one of my parents' close friends, and we reached out to her because I was going through some very tough ascension symptoms, also known as the dark nights of the soul, nights plural because there were more than one. And this was a time in my college years, so it was quite a long time ago. And only in my recent years, now that I understand the clairs a lot better, that I'm able to articulate my experience when interacting with my family friend and also the goddess斗姥元君. So how it works is I would be having a real life conversation with my family friend, but at the same time my higher self would be communicating as well during the same interaction. So specifically, because we are multi-dimensional beings, two conversations could indeed be happening at the same time. That's kind of how it worked, except at the time, I didn't understand how claircognizance worked. So I couldn't even explain how sometimes I would just know things to my parents. So my family friends, they would come check up on me on occasion, not in a physical sense, but she sometimes, maybe once or twice, I've noticed it, where she would leave like a very faint scent, and apparently only the receiver can smell it if she wants them to. I'll also link a video about the clairs if you might want to learn or review about the different clairs. I actually have too many stories about my family friend and all the various mystical and supernatural and miraculous experiences that I've had, but I want to share just one here, so you can feel free, grab a cup of tea or coffee and snack, and I hope you'll find this interesting, entertaining, maybe. So it was maybe 2 years into my career as a makeup artist, and so this was, more than a decade ago. And at the time, I was working on learning and advancing my hairstyling technique, because in my market, most of the jobs that are booked are combo artists, hair and makeup. And so if I wanted to work more, I had to be better at hairstyling. I had a great teacher at the time in the city, but it was kind of difficult logistically to find him and schedule the class. So I decided I wanted a continuous study opportunity, and through a referral, I found a wonderful teacher in Taipei where I can complete like a 40-hour hairstyling course. So a few days before my trip from California to Taipei, I had like the scariest nightmare that I can't even remember a scarier one. So in my dream, I had arrived at my parents' apartment, and it's an apartment that I've never been to because they had moved recently, and my parents had set up, in my dream, my parents had set up an altar in their apartment, and we don't have altars at home. If they want to go, they may go to a temple, and they were using incense to pray to this Guanyin figurine, with everything. I was like, what? Not only was the altar incorrectly set up, what was inside the figurine was not actually Bodhisattva Guanyin, but some random dark entity. So when I discovered them in this state of prayer, I was hysterically yelling at my parents, like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? And my dad was like, we're praying. She's going to protect us. But I was like, but it's not Guanyin inside. And then at the moment I was yelling, I looked over at the figurine in my dream, and the face had like an evil smile. And not only was this evil smile, it also had like a bloody tear coming down one eye, and the figurine was holding a knife. If you're familiar with the Bodhisattva Guanyin iconography, they're usually depicted standing in front of the Dharma wheel. Maybe they're holding prayer beads, or sometimes a vajra or a vial. Never is she holding a knife. So the whole scene was terrifying. I was begging and pleading my parents to get rid of it. It's evil, and they just wouldn't listen because they were so entranced in this altar. So what do I do when I woke up from this terrifying dream? I called my mom. I was like, Mom, do you have a Guanyin figurine altar set up at home? And my mom was like, what? No, why do you ask that? We don't have altars at home. When I told her about my dream, and she was like, okay, I see. Well, don't worry about it. We don't have a figurine and don't have an altar. So I was like, okay. I arrived in Taipei 2 days later to their temporary apartment. This is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath loft with a loft space, very tiny space, because their main apartment is getting renovated. And so they directed me, I've never been there, so they directed me to store my luggage in the loft space. And then when I looked up from the loft, I see the Guanyin figurine. It faced the living room, and so it's actually high up. So if you're sitting in the living room and if you don't look up, you could forget that it's there. And the shelf is actually just accessible in that crawl space through the loft. So anyways, immediately I was like, Mom, You said you don't have a Guang figurine. And my mom was like, oh, what? Oh, that I forgot about it. Your aunt had an extra one that was gifted to her or something like that, and she just gave it to us. And I'm like, and you just placed it there as decoration? I was so incredulous, considering it's like facing the living room in the center of the whole apartment. And especially after I called her about my scary dream. So I was like, whatever. I was super jet lagged and my hairstyling class was starting right away, so I had to focus on getting acclimated to the time difference. So I was like, okay, whatever. The first week of my stay and my hairstyling classes, my parents unfortunately had to leave for a family funeral. So I was home alone in Taipei, and during the day I would go to my hairstyling class and come home at night. And I swear I was feeling just fine when I'm outside, studying hair. But when I came home to eat dinner in the living room, since it's a tiny apartment, there's no separate like dining room living space, I would suddenly get very nauseous. It really felt like severe motion sickness, like turning inside out kind of feeling. And at first I was like, am I still jet lagged or something? It's possible. Or could I be getting sick? But every time I left the house to go to my hairstyling class at my teacher's studio, I was perfectly fine. No nausea, no feeling of, sickness. And only when I came home at night and I sat down in the living room when I had that feeling. So after this went on for a couple of days in a row, I'm like, oh my God, it's that figurine. So I'm like, ugh, something is off. I asked my mom for my family friend's cell phone number, and I called her as soon as I got it. And I explained the situation to her, and she was like, I'll send someone remotely to take care of it. And then the next day I had follow-up with her, and she said, don't worry about it, we took care of it, and we also did the Kai Guang ceremony, so it won't happen again. You don't have to even remove the statue. And surely enough, my living room was perfectly fine again. I never felt nauseous again. So briefly, Kai Guang is a Buddhist and Taoist ritual where the priest or person activates or consecrates a space or an object, which allows the space or object to be used for various purposes. So like in this case of the Guang figurine, before it's activated or going through the Kai Guang consecration ritual, it is just an art piece made of wood, stone, or porcelain, but only after the ritual can it be used as an altar at home or at a temple. Similarly, a space can also go through the ritual and be used for a specific purpose. Essentially, in Buddhist and Taoist tradition, you do not display a figurine on a shelf, even as decoration, without the Kai Guang ritual, because any entity can live in there. While my parents never actually prayed to it or created an official altar to honor it and give it energy, so to speak, it was still placed in a place of prominence in the living room. So also it was a figurine of an important buddho-daoist figure, a deity, and it's a clean apartment with nice people with positive energy. Why not? It's basically an attractive place for an entity to live in there. So this is why traditionally we put red cloth over such an artwork, or red cloth around the eyes, and this is to prevent unwanted entities for taking home in the figurine, like a hermit crab. So entities want to find a container or a home as well. I didn't really ask the details about this entity. All I know from my dream is that it clearly doesn't belong there. It doesn't belong in the figurine nor my parents' living room. So there are many different kinds of light workers, tiers, skill sets, privileges, and gifts you might get. And in a nutshell, if you invoke, let's say, Archangel Michael, a representative will come help you. So Taoist priests would refer to them as 天兵天将 if they're working in the divine realm. Literal translation of this are divine soldiers and generals, and they can come remotely. And some light workers are designated to clear negative entities, while others focus on energy healing or premonitions. It just depends on one's specialty and unique sets of gifts. So about my dream. Clearly, I was tuned in to what was about to happen. While I'm not predominantly clairvoyant or have like strong premonition gifts, I would occasionally receive a strong message and clear message like this through the dreamland, dreamscape, or the astral plane. So while I can't give you access to my family friend, I can share with you the temple where I used to go visit the goddess斗姥元君. So I'll share the link and the Google Map link. It is one of the oldest temples in Taiwan, founded in 1661. And when you go to her floor, you will see a stone sculpture that has the 12 Zodiac sign in front of her carved in stone. And there's also a different section that has all the 60 generals and the various deities that are in charge of the corresponding stars. When I was a college student, I would return to Taiwan on most summers and winter breaks, and I would always make a trip down to visit Kaohsiung, where my family friend lives, as well as this specific temple, which houses 斗姥元君 and 九天玄女, whom I have a special relationship with, but that's another story for another time. I hope you enjoyed my video and my postscript story, and let me know in the comments if you had any thoughts, requests, or any requests for content. I love to hear from you. Until next time, thank you for watching. Bye!